Hi folks, John Cordisco back again. Round 3 of the tournament that I played in over the weekend, the New York State Open 2014. This is my round 3 game. I'm playing black, and William Gonzalez is white. He's a nice kid. It's tough with these younger guys. You know how strong they are, but his rating was much below mine, but his rating was much higher than was indicated on the rating sheets. He went e4. I did my usual Scandinavian. Knight takes c4. Knight. Tiny advantage for white, but I've seen this position a million times. Knight c3. c6. That was a big mistake on my part, according to the computer. I should have went bishop f5, e6 first. I went c6. Bishop, g6, he went knight f3. Now we're back on the computer's suggested moves now. It makes you feel a little better. Queen to d2, and I castled. And he went bishop h6. You see this a lot. They're enticing you to take the piece. Don't do it. Because once queen takes, this knight comes up and you're done that quick. Now the computer calls for bishop takes h6, but I wasn't going to do it. The knight, bishop e2, and I went queen to c7. I just wanted to get the queen in a decent spot, get her off the back rank. I'll eventually move the knight on d7. Get my light squared bishop out. Bishop takes, king takes. Now it says my king safety slightly dropped, but he doesn't have a dark squared bishop, so I'm okay. He castles. Rook to e8. Now my light squared bishop is pinning in a lot of stuff. It's pinning in my knight's pinning in my light squared bishop, so it's a little tough for me right now, but I'll dig it out. He moved d5. I played c takes. He played knight takes. I played knight takes, c6, c takes. Now, my point of my whole exchange there was to isolate that d pawn. That's what I wanted. Knight to f6, get that knight out of the way. Of course, he hit my queen, pick up a tempo. And then when queen to d6, now you show the computer showing that it's eyeballing the fact that I'm after the d pawn, which is true. He went bishop c4. Now I've got a small advantage here, believe it or not, almost half a pawn, and I'm a little surprised. And I did this computer suggested move bishop g4, which I was kind of proud of. Of course, I'm trying to take the knight so I can screw up his pawn structure. He went queen to e3, which was a pretty good move. Now I should have taken probably the knight, or taking the pawn on d5 right away. I got a little weird. I went rook. So I figured, what the heck, right? It's not going to change anything. And knight to e5 is probably the move he should have made. He moved queen takes a7, double question mark. Now, the computer just jumped. I'm 2.5 points up. I took the knight. He took with a pawn. And I saw this whole sequence. Queen to f4. Right now, I am feeling like $1 million. His king is just screwed. His queen's totally out of protection of the king. The light squared bishop can't help. The rook on f1 is basically cutting off his escape square, and the rook on c1. And I've got my knight and my queen after his king. And I'm feeling like $1 million right now. He went b3. And this is where I screwed up. You get these ideas of, you know, I'm down a pawn, so I've got to get it back. I went queen takes f3, and immediately I'm 2/3 of a pawn up. Before that, I was all 3 points up. I should have played queen to g5 check, forcing the king into the corner. Knight takes d5 maybe next. But b5 is the move that I missed. He can't take. I just so disgusted with myself. Queen to e3, queen takes, f takes, b takes, b takes. And I got a knight for 2 pawns. And I'm up over 3 points. That's the position that I should have had. But I screwed up. I played queen takes, f3. I knew it was probably the wrong move, but I wasn't really lost or anything. I still have the advantage. It's just I made it harder on myself. Gonzalez played queen takes b7. And I'm back in the hunt. He should have played queen to e3. And I would have went queen to f5. I've got over a point advantage, but it's not won by any means. After he plays queen takes b7, I figured I can go back, right? Go back to f4. Then I got the advantage again. Not a chance. Not a chance. You can never go back, folks. Instead of that, I should have played knight to e4. And I win. Because after queen e5, pawn takes, rook to c5. That's what I missed, that sequence. The rook comes out. And now the rook can swing over. And the game is over. After e takes, rook mates. Missed the sequence so I could do the rook. It gets the rook out. And over. This one can't get out because the pawn's in the way. He plays f3, which is basically his only move. At this point, I'm so disgusted. I probably should have played rook to c7. And this is part of the reason why I'm even showing this video is you get off tilt. I'm completely winning. I was completely winning in round 2. And I got snookered by a perpetual. And I was so upset by that, I think I carried over into this game. I'm completely winning. Game's over. Instead of going rook to c7, I'm on queen to e3. If I go rook to c7 after queen to b5, rook, and I double up the rooks. And I'm looking pretty good. I'm not going to guarantee to win by any stretch of the imagination, but it's much better than what I did. After queen to e3, knight. Then I'm thinking somehow I can get my knight in. So I went knight to h5. Now the computer shows white with a tiny advantage. If I go queen to a5 instead, might have been a little better. But after knight to h5, d6, beautiful move. Beautiful move. Because I can't take, because queen. I just want to get into that complication. So I went rook to b8, chasing the queen. He goes queen to e4. Now the game's still even, but this is what happens psychologically. I am so PO'd right now. I didn't see the rook move, but I knew there was something there. There was something there, there was something there. And I think my anger carried over from round 2. Or I should say my disappointment / aggravation / whatever you want to call it. He plays pawn, I play pawn takes. He takes my queen. Now at this point I'm thinking I'm okay. I should be able to draw this easily, and the computer bears this out. It's basically 0.00 or damn near. He goes a4. I go rook to e5, trying to cut off the pawn. What I should have done instead is, or she should have run rook to d1. I went, excuse me, rook to e5. I lost my place here. What I should have done was knight to f4 instead. Then after the rook, pawn. Where's the bishop going to go? He's trapped. Bishop takes, knight takes, rook takes, king to g2. I could have drawn this easily. Maybe even won it, depending. I went rook to e5. Rook e to f1. And this is where I make a huge blunder. Huge. I went rook on b to e8. Huge mistake. Huge mistake. I should have played rook takes, and after rook takes, knight to f4. That was my chance to draw. When rook b to e8, he took, rook to d1. Now the game isn't over, but I'm making this incredibly hard for myself. Then I go knight to f4. Maybe f5 would have been better instead. Then after b4, knight to f6. Rook takes, rook d1 check, king to g2. I'm still probably going to lose this. At this point, I am so PO'd, I can't even think straight. I am so aggravated. And this is what happens when you don't clear your mind. He goes b4. You go from a winning position, totally winning, to drawing position, and now you might lose. And all this happens in 15 minutes. It's tough psychologically to adjust. He went d5, or I went d5. He moved the bishop back. Rook e3. Now the points are piling up for him. Rook to b1. That was his mistake. He should have went a5. Then after rook to a3, a6. Knight to e6. If rook had taken instead, b5, knight to e6, b6, and of course that's over. After rook to b1, d4 was the correct move for me. He's barely got a small advantage. I still can draw this, but I'm so mad and frustrated about what happened in the previous game and now this one that b5, here come the pawns. I have to go d3. I have to push on. Rook to a3. Computer says terrible, but what else could black do to save the game? If I had gone rook to d3 after rook to d1, d2. It's just at this point, I'm so disgusted. He'd have to take the pawn on d2 and my rook goes to a3 and take his a pawn. After rook to a3, he goes b6, and I resign. I can't stop the pawn. If rook takes, pawn goes here. How could I possibly stop the pawn with the rook watching it? And that's where I resigned. He was a nice kid. He wanted to go over the game later, but I was so mad. And I hope he didn't take it personally. I told him I was tired, which I was, but I told him I'd go in with it later, the next day, because there was 2 more rounds to play the next day. And excuse me. And later that night, I was pretty upset. I walked down to Lake George in town. I've never seen it before, and got some of the video that you can see in one of my previous videos here on the tournament round 1. I've got some video of Lake George. And I couldn't sleep that night, which is very unusual for me. I might have trouble going to bed a little bit late, but I lay down 40 minutes later, I'm up. Lay down, half an hour later, I'm up. This went on all night long. I couldn't sleep for whatever reason. About 6:30 in the morning, I'm still trying to go to sleep. At this point, it's starting to get light out. And I figured, out of hell with it. Out of hell with it. So I got my stuff together and went down to the area where the tournament director has his stuff, and I left him a note with my name and my U.S. Chess Federation number and told them that I was withdrawing. As long as you tell them before the round starts, it's fine. Because I'm a TD, and I know that's terrible when people just don't show up. So I withdrew from the tournament. I had some breakfast. I was exhausted. There's no way I could play. And I had to drive 3.5 hours back home, which I did, and I got home about noontime. And I was so upset about what happened. Anyway, folks, that's my story / tragedy / whatever from the New York State Open. I should have been 3 games in a row, and it didn't happen. So what I'm going to try to learn from this is separate yourself from bad things and try to move on. And I should have stuck with it. I don't know why I couldn't sleep. That's really hasn't happened to me very often in my life, but it did. And the timing really sucked. And that's the way it is. So the next tournament I play in, I know I have the skills, obviously. I should have been 3-0. So I know how to play. It's just psychologically I've got some things to get through while I'm playing. Anyway, that's the video. This long, sad story. I want you all to remember, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.
I like guys who have a little bit fat, a little bit hairy back. I like guys who watch a lot of football and go out with the boys. This is good thing. If I don't get flowers, I'm not like, oh, por me, I don't get flowers. This is so silly. I know they sometimes go to the striptease, but it's okay. I'm not jealous. He can do whatever he wants. I mean, I don't care.
The girlfriend. Jim Beam. The bourbon.